My father abandoned me after my mom died and went to live with my aunt and her kid. Now, after 16 years, my aunt's kid has thrown him out and he wants to live with me. I'm a 36-year-old woman living alone in my late mother's home. I have a good job and a stable life. My boyfriend lives in another state, but he's very supportive. Everything was going smoothly until last night when I got an unexpected call from my father, Andrew. I was relaxing after work when my phone rang. I saw it was my dad and hesitated before answering. We hadn't spoken in months. When I picked up, I heard sobbing on the other end. It took a few moments before my father could speak. "I'm so sorry," he said between sobs. "I know I have no right to ask this, but I need your help." I felt a knot form in my stomach. "What's going on, Dad?" He explained that my Aunt Claudia, my mom's sister, had kicked him out of her house. He'd been living with her for the past 16 years, ever since my mom died. Now he was staying in some rundown place and didn't know what to do. "I'm old now," he said. "I can't take care of myself like I used to. I was wondering, is there any chance I could come stay with you, just until I figure something out?" I was stunned. A flood of emotions hit me all at once. Anger, hurt, confusion. I told him I needed time to think about it, and hung up. Now I'm sitting here, trying to process everything. My mind keeps going back to 16 years ago, when I was just 20 years old. My mom had died after a long battle with cancer. I was devastated, lost, and in desperate need of support. But instead of being there for me, my dad packed up and left to go live with Claudia. Claudia was a single mom with a young kid at the time. I guess my dad decided her family needed him more than I did. He completely neglected me after that. No calls, no visits, nothing. I had to figure everything out on my own. Those first few years were so hard. I was barely an adult, suddenly living alone in this big, empty house. I had to learn how to manage bills, cook for myself, and deal with my grief all at the same time. I was in college, trying to keep up with classes while also working part-time jobs to make ends meet. Not many family members stepped up to help. A few distant relatives sent sympathy cards, but that was about it. My mom's parents had passed away years before, and my dad's family lived far away. I felt so incredibly alone. I remember crying myself to sleep many nights, wondering why my dad had abandoned me. What had I done wrong? Wasn't I important to him? The hurt and rejection were overwhelming, but somehow, I managed to get through it. I threw myself into my studies and work. I made a few close friends who became like family to me. Slowly but surely, I built a life for myself. After college, I landed a good job in marketing. I worked hard and moved up in the company. I started traveling, pursuing hobbies, dating. A few years ago, I met my current boyfriend. He's amazing, kind, supportive, understanding. We're in a long-distance relationship now due to our jobs, but we make it work. Financially, I'm in a good place. I paid off my student loans, I have savings, and I'm able to take nice vacations now and then. I've done a lot of work on the house over the years, updating and redecorating. It feels like my own space now, filled with happy memories instead of sadness. I thought I had moved on from the pain of my past. I rarely thought about my dad anymore. The last time we spoke was at Christmas when he called to wish me happy holidays. Our conversations are always short and superficial. And now this. After 16 years of absence, he wants to move in with me. I don't even know how to begin processing this request. Part of me is still that hurt 20-year-old girl, angry at being abandoned. Why should I help him when he wasn't there for me? He made his choice back then. He chose Claudia and her kid over me. Now that arrangement has fallen through and suddenly he remembers. He has a daughter. But another part of me feels guilty. He is my father, after all. And he sounds desperate. What if he ends up homeless? Could I live with myself knowing I turned him away in his time of need? I'm also worried about how this would impact my life. I've worked hard to create a peaceful, stable environment for myself. Having my dad move in would completely disrupt that. What about my relationship? My boyfriend and I like to spend time together at my place when he visits. That would be awkward with my dad around. And what about the long-term implications? Is this a temporary thing, or would he expect to live with me indefinitely? He mentioned being old and unable to care for himself. Does that mean he needs a caretaker? I'm not equipped for that, emotionally or practically. There's also the issue of Claudia. I'm curious about what happened there. Why did she kick him out after all this time? Is there something I should know? I haven't spoken to her in years either. I feel like I need more information before I can make a decision, but I'm also afraid of getting sucked back into family drama that I've worked so hard to distance myself from. Part of me wants to just say no, to tell him that he made his choice 16 years ago and now he has to live with the consequences. But I worry that's just my hurt and anger talking. I don't want to be a cruel person. I've thought about calling some friends for advice, but I'm embarrassed. I've never told anyone the full story of what happened with my dad. It's always been too painful to discuss. My boyfriend knows some of it, but not everything. I'm considering reaching out to Claudia to get her side of the story, but I'm nervous about opening that can of worms. What if she tries to guilt me into taking him in? Or what if I learn things about my dad that make me feel even worse? I keep thinking about what my mom would want me to do in this situation. She always taught me to be kind and forgiving, but she also believed in standing up for yourself and not letting people take advantage of you. I'm not sure which principle applies here. There's also a small, childish part of me that sees this as an opportunity. Maybe if my dad lives with me, we can repair our relationship. Maybe he'll finally be the father I needed all those years ago, but I know that's probably just wishful thinking. People don't change that dramatically, especially not at his age. I'm worried about anger building if I do let him move in. What if I agree and then regret it? What if all those old feelings of anger and abandonment come rushing back? I've worked hard on my mental health over the years. I don't want to undo all that progress. There's also the practical side to consider. My house isn't that big. Where would he sleep? Would I need to buy extra furniture? What about food and other expenses? Would he contribute financially or expect me to cover everything? I'm trying to imagine what my daily life would look like with him here. Would he expect me to cook for him and do his laundry? Would he respect my space and privacy? Would he try to parent me or criticize my lifestyle choices? The more I think about it, the more overwhelmed I feel. This decision feels impossibly huge. Whatever I choose, it's going to have a major impact on my life. If I say yes, I'm opening myself up to potential hurt and disruption. I'd be taking on a big responsibility that I never asked for, but I'd also be doing what some might consider the right thing. If I say no, I get to maintain my independence and the life I've built for myself. But I risk feeling guilty and wondering if I made the right choice. What if something happens to him and I could have prevented it? I wish I had someone to talk to about all this, someone who could offer an objective perspective. Maybe I should consider seeing a therapist to help me work through these feelings and make a decision. For now, I think I need to take some time to process everything. I don't want to make a rash decision based on emotion. I need to think carefully about what I want and what I can realistically handle. I'm planning to call my dad back tomorrow and ask for more details about his situation. I want to know exactly what happened with Claudia, what his current living situation is like, and what his expectations are if I were to let him stay here. I also think I need to have a serious conversation with my boyfriend about all this. His opinion matters to me, and this would affect him too if he spends time at my place. Part of me wishes my dad had never called, that I could go back to my peaceful life and pretend this never happened. But I know that's not possible. One way or another, I have to deal with this. I keep reminding myself that I'm not that helpless 20-year-old girl anymore. I'm a strong, independent woman who has overcome a lot. Whatever I decide, I know I can handle it. I've been handling things on my own for 16 years now. As I sit here in my mom's old house, my house now, I feel a mix of emotions. Sadness for the family I lost, pride in what I've accomplished, anxiety about the future. But mostly, I feel determined to make the best decision I can, whatever that may be. I know I don't owe my dad anything. He wasn't there for me when I needed him most. But I also know that holding on to anger and resentment isn't good for me. Maybe this is an opportunity for growth and healing, or maybe it's an opportunity to set firm boundaries and prioritize my own well-being, to show myself the love and protection that my father didn't provide. Either way, I know this won't be an easy decision, but I've faced tough choices before and come out stronger. Whatever happens, I'll get through this too. I just need time to think, gather more information, and listen to my heart. For tonight, I'm going to try to relax and not make any decisions. I'll call my boyfriend, watch some TV, and try to get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow is another day, and I'll face this challenge with a clear head and a strong spirit. Life has thrown me another curveball, but I'm ready to step up to the plate. I've built a good life for myself, and I won't let anyone, not even my dad, take that away from me. Whatever I decide, it will be on my terms, for my reasons. I'm not that abandoned 20-year-old anymore. I'm a capable adult who can handle difficult situations and make tough choices. I just hope I make the right one. Update. After posting about my dilemma, I decided to talk to my boyfriend and get more information from my dad. I wanted to approach this rationally and make an informed decision. I called my boyfriend first. He's always been a great source of support, and I value his opinion. I explained the situation to him and asked what he thought I should do. True to his nature, he was understanding and supportive. "Honey, this is a really personal decision," he said. "I can't tell you what to do. Whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. If you want him to move in, we'll make it work. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm here for you either way. His response was comforting, but it also meant the decision was entirely on my shoulders. I thanked him for his support and told him I'd keep him updated. Next, I called my dad. I needed to know more about what had happened with Claudia and why he was in this situation now. When he picked up, he sounded relieved to hear from me. I cut straight to the point and asked him to explain everything. What he told me made my blood boil. Apparently, over the past 16 years, he had been working and earning a decent amount. But instead of saving for his future, or, I don't know, helping his own daughter, he spent everything on Claudia and her kid. He paid for their living expenses, funded the kids' education, even bought them a car. He said he felt obligated because Claudia had taken him in. But now that her child was grown and working, Claudia had asked him to leave. According to my dad, her kid didn't want the responsibility of taking care of an old man. As I listened, I felt a mix of emotions: hurt, anger, disbelief. All those years when I was struggling, working multiple jobs to pay for college, living on ramen noodles, and crying myself to sleep. My dad had money. He could have helped me. But he chose to support Claudia and her child instead. I thought about the nights I stayed up late studying, the weekends I worked instead of going out with friends, the constant stress of wondering if I'd make rent. All while my dad was playing happy families with Claudia, forgetting he had a daughter who needed him. The realization hit me hard. Not only had he abandoned me emotionally, but he had also chosen to financially support someone else's family while leaving me to fend for myself. It felt like a second betrayal. In that moment, any guilt or obligation I felt towards him disappeared. I took a deep breath and spoke clearly into the phone. "Dad," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I've heard enough. I'm sorry you're in a difficult situation, but I won't be able to help you. You need to figure this out on your own." He started to protest, but I cut him off. "For 16 years, you chose Claudia and her child over me. You supported them financially while I struggled alone. You made your choice back then, and now you have to live with the consequences." My dad's voice cracked as he began to apologize, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. "Please don't call me again," I said. "I wish you the best, but I can't be part of your life anymore. Goodbye, Dad." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt a sense of relief wash over me. For the first time in years, I felt like I had stood up for myself against my father's neglect. I know some might think I'm being cruel, but I don't see it that way. I'm protecting myself and the life I've built. I'm choosing my own well-being over someone who never chose me. I called my boyfriend back and told him what happened. He was supportive as always, telling me he was proud of me for making a tough decision. We talked for a while, and his words helped reinforce that I'd made the right choice. Now, as I sit in my home, the home I've maintained and improved on my own for 16 years, I feel a mix of sadness and strength. I'm sad for the relationship I'll never have with my father, but I'm proud of myself for setting boundaries and prioritizing my own well-being. I don't know what will happen to my dad now, and part of me feels guilty about that. But a larger part knows that I'm not responsible for him. He's an adult who made his own choices, and now he has to deal with the results of those choices. Moving forward, I'm going to focus on the people who have been there for me: my boyfriend, my friends, and most importantly, myself. I've taken care of myself for 16 years, and I'll continue to do so. This experience has been difficult, but it's also been clarifying. I now know where I stand, and I'm no longer carrying the weight of what if on my shoulders. I'm free to continue building my life on my own terms, without the shadow of my father's neglect hanging over me. It's not the happy ending I might have once hoped for, but it's the right ending for me. And for the first time in a long time, I feel at peace with my family situation. Whatever the future holds, I know I can handle it. After all, I've been handling things on my own for 16 years now, and I've done pretty well for myself.